Okay, To Stretch Watercolour paper. This is £190 watercolour paper. So it's really too flimsy to paint directly onto. And the best way to do it is to actually use gum strip, which is this old parcel tape, sticky on one side, brown paper on the other, and water, and then let it dry overnight, and then you've got a perfect background for your watercolour painting. This is a basic board, it's just a ply board, and I'm now going to dampen it down with a wet sponge, and then I'm going to start the stretching process. I'm just going over my board, dampening it. This has been used several times for stretching paper before I begin my watercolour paper. This is the watercolour paper cut to the size. It's just a large sheet cut into 4. Check that you've got the top surface. In this particular grade of paper, it doesn't make much difference, but you just look for the watermark and check that you've got the top surface. If I show you through this one here, if you hold it up to the light, you've got the Saunders Waterford mark here. So this is the top surface of your watercolour paper. Okay, so taking it over to your sink, because you can do all these processes at home. Totally dampen your paper on both sides, making sure you're not leaving any space at all that you haven't covered with water. One side, turn it over, and then do the other side. Come off. Take it over to your pre-dampened board and put it centrally. And then using your hands, just put it down so it's nice and central on your board. Now you can see already it's starting to pick up a little bit as it's stretching in terms of the little bumps and things. Don't worry about that because they are all straighten out as you go along. Now I've taken away my gum strip, but I've pre-measured 2 side pieces and 2 top end pieces for the rest of my rectangle. Now you dampen one each at a time. Again, over at your sink. Run it through your fingers underneath the tap, getting it totally saturated with water. And then place it centrally on your side. Sort of work it out really. Use your eye and judgment. You want to have about 1 centimetre over your piece of watercolour paper to allow it to stretch. Take your other piece. Try to work on opposite sides. Work on opposite sides. Place it over, about 1 centimetre gap. There we are. Try to keep it central. There we are. Now you work on your 2 parallel opposite sides. Don't worry about these gaps because that will be all stretched if you leave it flat to dry. Centimetre over, and there you have it. That's all done. Leave flat to dry, not by a heating radiator, just flat normal room temperature. And I'll show you one that I've done earlier. One pre-prepared stretched piece of paper, watercolour paper. It's Saunders knot paper, 190. There we go, beautiful, ready for painting. Fantastically lovely and flat. Thank you very much. Bye bye.